Jolly good day, my dear YouTuber friends, and I hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video, Mastering the Fundamentals of Flight Simming, Video 3. In this video, we're going to be tackling Autopilot Basics, following a heading. Let me just get a hold of the heading knob. How to set up the autopilot for the specific altitude you want to flying. Like I mentioned, following a heading, using flight level change to climb to that heading, using heading mode, and even navigation mode to follow a course. I'm going to be covering all that in this video with the hope of helping you mastering the fundamentals of flight simulation. So let's not dilly-dally, let's get on with this video. Okay, so for this video, we're going to be using another default aircraft. It's the Cessna 172, the C172. You should find it in your aircraft list, no matter what platform you're using. The reason for that is because it uses autopilot. It has glass cockpit displays, different to the other aircraft that we tried in video 1 and 2, the Cessna 152, which had dials. Now all the readings are done on a computer screen in effect. As you can see, it's got a couple of G1000s, that's what these Garmin system are called, and they're fully autopilot capable. So let's talk a little bit about autopilot and what it does. First thing we should talk about is Autopilot Master. The autopilot engage, disengage, as you can see there when I hover over it. It does exactly what it's meant to do. It engages the autopilot when you press it. There we go. Autopilot has come on. When you press it again, it will disengage. And it's essentially turning your autopilot on and off, your autopilot computer. Think of it, the way I like to think of it like turning your Xbox or PlayStation 5 on, or your PC. You're turning it on. You need to give it another command before the autopilot does what you want it to do. So you can turn it on, autopilot's on. Yeah, the aircraft's thinking, yeah, you've turned it on. What do you want me to do? So you have to give it further commands like you would with your PlayStation, Xbox or PC before it actually does anything. You're just turning it on or off. So that's what that button is. It's just engaging the autopilot computer or disengaging it when you turn it off. I'm not going to go through, as you can see, with this aircraft, Cessna 172, it's got things like heading mode, navigation, approach mode, vertical speed, flight level change, flight directors, altitude hold, vertical navigation hold, back course mode, and it's got a couple of buttons here that help you alter, which I'll show you later. These are a couple of buttons. So lots of different buttons. That can be over complex for you. Don't worry. The ones we're going to concentrate on mostly are your Autopilot Master, which I showed you before, heading and navigation mode, which will let you follow a course if you have one set up, which I do. I've got a simple course between Manchester and Birmingham. We'll talk about that in a moment. I guess one thing I should tell you, I'm down in this screen. It's like, how did you do that, Hudson? How did you get down there in these screens and I could switch between them? Well, that's with, let me just show you that first. That's with, go to settings. So settings, controls. Nice and slow for new people. Keyboard. If you have a keyboard connected, have it on the basic. These should be the default profiles, 2024 transversal and planes. If you do that, using Shift and F1 will take you to the first screen. Let's go back. And Shift and F2 will Shift and F2. Oh, let me just make sure that I've got Flight Sim connected there. Just a second. Why did it not do that for me? Shift and 2, not F2. Sorry. Shift and 1 will take you to the first screen. Shift and 2, so the number 2 on your keyboard. Not F2, not F1. 1 and 2. So Shift and 1, Shift and 2 will move you between these screens. You can do it that way. I've got a on my controller, and you'll have to check where this will be on your own specific controller, especially if you're using a gamepad or something of that sort. On my Honeycomb XPC yoke, basically, you can see here on the left handle, moving that hat switch down takes me to previous pilot position. So if you're not sure what you got assigned for previous pilot position, let's just click out of that. Go back, save them back, because it just takes a little time when you do that. So let's go to controllers again. I'm on my controller, whatever controller you're using. In the search bar here, just type in previous. Previous. Pilot. Previous pilot. If you just type in previous pilot, it will show you what you got bound for previous pilot position. So that's how I do it from a controller. Probably easier if you have a keyboard connected. You can just go Shift and 1. So there we go. So let's talk about first the heading mode. What does this do? Well, heading. If you've got a heading mode, you're going to have a heading knob. I've not seen an aircraft that has a heading mode select without having the heading knob. If you look on your compass, this will be different for different aircraft. Try it with the Cessna 172 first, and then transfer it to other more complex aircraft. That's the way I learnt, and that's the way I did it. On this part of the compass, basically the compass on your G1000, you can see that blue mark. That's your heading bug. Wherever that heading bug is, when you take off, so if I take off in this direction, 231 degrees, and put it into autopilot and heading mode, the aircraft's going to turn and follow where that heading bug is. In fact, I can show you. Let me just get back to my normal screen. I've got my yoke connected. I'll turn autopilot on. I'll turn heading mode on. You can try it on the ground. Look, the yoke will move to the right. That's where my heading bug is. So it's trying to follow that heading bug. I've got controls set up to move my heading bug, just to do it a bit quicker. If I move it to the left over here, watch what the yoke does. It's going to try and follow it to the left. Give it a second. It will follow it to the left. There we go. You can see it slowly going. And if you're in the air, basically, you're just going to turn to the left or right, depending where that heading bug is. So that's essentially what it does. If you're using the actual knobs in the aircraft, I can move mouse up on this knob. If you're using a controller, I believe it's lock on with A for the Xbox controller. I'm not sure what it is on a PlayStation 5, and you can use your analog stick to move the heading bug once you've locked onto this dial here. But I can move the controller left or right, and if I'm up in the air, and I'll show you this later, I can move that left or right, and the aircraft will follow whichever direction. So if I want to come to a heading of 200 degrees, and you can see it lit up there, heading 200. That's your heading mode command. So if I've got autopilot on and heading mode on, the aircraft will turn left to follow that heading of 200 degrees. Quite simple. Yeah, I don't need to explain more than that. It will just follow wherever you've got your heading bug if you're in heading mode. So there we go. That's heading mode. How about navigation mode, nav mode? Well, if you've got a course set up, I'm going to press Shift and 2. I've got a simple course between Manchester and Birmingham. If you're close to this magenta line here, let's zoom in, and I can range here with this dial here. If I'm close, the aircraft is close to that magenta line. If I click on, go Shift and 1 again, just to put it back. Autopilot and nav mode, I can do it now. And nav mode, it won't do anything. It will say GPS mode here. It's like a GPS in your car, isn't it? It's going to follow whatever mode you've got set up on your GPS, whatever your course you've got set up. So as long as I'm close to that magenta line, and I'm going to show you this later it will lock onto it and go into GPS mode. If you're not close enough, that GPS won't be green. It's green because we're close to that magenta line at the moment. If we're not close enough, it will showing white, I believe. I'll show you that in the air later. Then when you get close, it will lock on and go fully green, which means you're on, you're close enough to your magenta line, so you're locked onto your course, and it will follow the course, whatever course you've got set in. So nice and simple there, people. Autopilot will just engage the autopilot computer, turn it on and off. I've got it on at the moment. If I put it into heading mode, it will follow wherever my heading bug is. And I can move that heading bug around to make the aircraft follow whatever direction I've got that set to. If I turn the autopilot computer on and press nav mode, navigation mode, it will follow whatever course, as long as I'm close to that magenta line, I've got set in. All fairly straightforward. Let's continue. Now, before we go for a fly, I just want to show you a couple more things, because I want to climb safely under autopilot to an altitude I'm going to set in. If you've got autopilot functionality, you're going to have an altitude knob, altitude select. This is how you select an altitude for your autopilot to fly to. So you can see nothing's set. When I move these knobs, you'll see a number in the Cessna 172 here, G1000. If you're using the G1000 in any aircraft, it'll be similar. You'll see a number change up here as soon as I move these knobs. Shall we set an altitude? We're at 260 feet at the moment, above sea level at Manchester. That's correct for Manchester. It's 260 feet above sea level. So shall we climb? Take a look outside. Not many mountains or hills. We can climb to 2,000 feet safely. That should be fine. So, using these knobs, the bigger knob will select your altitude, change it in thousands. The smaller knob will change it in hundreds. Let's use the bigger knob. It's a bit odd. It first goes to roughly your altitude first. So I'll just mouse up once. It will roughly go to my altitude, which is 260, 300 feet. If it was 240, it would probably go down to 200 feet. I'm nearer to 300 feet. That's just a bit of a ambiguity with the altitude knob in the G1000, or at least in the flight sim, in Flight Sim 2024. I'll move it up again. It should go to 1,300. There you go, 1,300. Move it one more time. It will go to 2,300. I want to get 2,000 feet commanded for my autopilot to climb to. So I can use the smaller knob. Are you following this? Bigger knob 1,000, smaller knob 100. Use it. Just mouse down a couple of times to get it to 2,000. Great. We've got an altitude set in now, what we want our aircraft to climb at under autopilot control. How do we tell our aircraft what speed, what safe speed we want to climb out at? Trouble is, if I take off and press my autopilot, I've got that 2,000 feet set in, as you can see, and say I put it into heading mode, so I put my heading bug to where my aircraft is facing at the moment, 231 degrees. Take off. Say I'm slightly descending when I've engaged autopilot. What's going to happen? It's likely because you've not told the autopilot, you've not given it commands in terms of vertical speed or what speed to climb out at. It's likely just going to continue descending. Conversely, if I was to take off and I had a steep altitude that I was climbing too quickly, I could be in danger of stalling, getting into this red taper here on the speed ribbon, and stalling the aircraft and crashing. So a safe way, and this is the sort of official way, or the proper way to climb out under autopilot control, is using flight level change. It's like, in other words, it's like a speed change, a set speed you want your autopilot to follow when you engage autopilot. That's what flight level change does. Vertical speed acts differently, and I want to show you that later. And that's all we're going to cover in this lesson. But flight level change mode, if I click it on the ground, you can do this on the ground. You do need to have an altitude set for your autopilot to do this. I set one before at 2000. I'll click the flight level change button. And FLC, flight level change, will come up here. You've got a number that's come up here. It's on 0 at the moment. Now I can type in, using the up and down buttons here, what speed I want my autopilot to stay at when I'm climbing to 2,000 feet. I'm going to keep this simple. 80 knots is a safe speed to climb to 2,000 feet, and it's going to get you there quickly. There's a more official speed, and I don't want to cover it in this lesson because it's going to overcomplicate things. So follow this for now, and then we can address that in a different lesson, perhaps the official speeds and why you want to climb out at certain speeds. But I know 80 knots is a safe speed and a good speed, and it's going to get us to 2,000 feet in no time. So I can alter my flight level change targeted speed, what speed I want my autopilot to climb out at, using these buttons here. So I can use nose up, and I can do that a bit quicker to get it to 80 knots. So I'm just using my left mouse button to get that up to 80 knots quicker. There, we're getting there. 80 knots, there we go, 80 knots. So what will happen now, if I take off, I've got flaps set in, so 300 feet above my altitude here, I'll raise my flaps, stick it into autopilot mode and heading mode to begin with, and I'll do that with you in a moment. The autopilot will auto-configure itself, because we've got a flight level change mode command set in. It will auto-configure itself to stay at the speed of 80 knots, assuming you've got enough throttle in, and when you're taking off you really should be at full throttle, which is there or near it. As long as you've got enough throttle in, it will configure itself for 80 knots and climb to 2,000 feet. It will stay at 80 knots, not below it or above it. It will stay generally at that 80 knot speed, and it will climb you to 2,000 feet carefully, controlled in a controlled manner, so you're not underspeeding, in danger of stalling your aircraft, so you're not climbing too high, or you're not in a descent because you've not set up a flight level change or vertical speed command. Flight level change in this mode, in this case, you've not set it up, so it won't descend. It will actually climb. It will stay at 80 knots, which will raise the nose of the aircraft because we'll be at full throttle, and we'll get to 2,000 feet. Hope you've understood that part. I've tried to go through that thoroughly with you on why it does what it does. As long as you've got enough speed set in, we're going to be at full throttle. The nose of the aircraft will pitch up because it will try and maintain 80 knots. If we didn't have 80 knots, say we were climbing at 110 feet, the nose would be slightly lower. It will make sense once we get in the air, so try and get your head around there. Okay, with that all covered, autopilot basics, heading, navigation mode, which I covered before, and flight level change, what speed we want our autopilot to climb out at to get to 2,000 feet. Shall we put this to the test and go for a fly? Okay, so let's start this flight from the main screen, the main home screen. We'll go to free flight. Make sure you got the Cessna 172. If you click on your aircraft, go back there from free flight, just go to your top left and click on the aircraft symbol if you don't have it selected. And you should see it under C. Remember, this is alphabetical, so it'll go from A to C. A, B, C rather. I've got a few different aircraft there. It should be there by default, the Asobo Studio Cessna 172 with the G1000. So I've got that selected. Following this tutorial, click on Manchester on the world map and go set as departure. Click on Birmingham, EGBB. You might need to zoom in and out if you can't see it. We can. Click on it, set as arrival. And that's it. We've just got a route set up from Manchester to Birmingham. Let's go fly. I'm going to start flight and keep you here, just to show you what we need to do with the aircraft once we get in there. So, come on. I was just in that. Yeah, better. I was going to say, don't be dilly-dallying there. Right, there we go. And click on ready to fly. And this Garmin seat screens will have to start up. You'll have to click on the enter button here. Right at the bottom, there's an enter button on your right G1000 just to get the map showing. Remember, with that range, we can range in and out. I've just moused down to range in a little bit. This will align the, the systems. So just give it a second. We're at the right altitude, which is a good start. And then we'll set the aircraft up. And it gives you, because we've got a course set up, it will give us some information here. Where we're taking off from, where we're going to land at, and the distance to that airport, Birmingham. Just under 58 nautical miles. There we go. Screen starting now. It just takes a moment. So we'll set up what we set up before. Remember, we used that altitude knob. Going to mouse up on it once. It will go to roughly our altitude at the moment. Mouse up again on the thousands, the big knob. To get it to, and again, 2,300. Mouse down on the small knobs, intervals of 100, you can see there, to get it down to 2,000 feet. We move our heading bug. I'll do it from here. Just mousing down in this case. To sync our heading bug, I want this heading to match that. So when we take off, we're just flying the runway heading, basically. 2, 3, 1. Perfect. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take off. I'm in flaps 1 configuration. 10 degrees of flaps you can see there. And you can take a look outside the aircraft to see that we've got some flaps just to help us on our takeoff roll. Help to give us a nice takeoff. Climb to 500 feet. It'll be roughly 300 feet above our current altitude and raise our flaps. Then stick it into autopilot mode. It's one thing. I'll just press Shift and 1 on my keyboard. Flight level change, like I showed you before. I want to climb out safely. So I can do this on the ground. I've got an altitude set in. You need that in first. Then click on your FLC button. That will come up. And like we did before, if I just hold down... Oh, never mind. I'm just clicking very quick to get that to 80 knots. 80 knots will be fine. And that's all we're setting up. Just like we did before on our autopilot panel. So, quickly tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go full throttle. So, move the view down, full throttle. Release our parking brake. About 60 knots, 55 to 60 knots. We've got flaps on. You see the speed build up here. 55 to 60 knots. We'll pull back gently on our controller to take off. About 500 feet altitude. I'll raise my flaps. Click on autopilot and heading. So it's going to follow. Turn the autopilot on. Follow our heading, which we've just set in, 231 degrees, our current heading. And because we've got a flight level change mode speed setting, it will maintain 80 knots and climb us to 2,000 feet. Just pause there while you get your head around that. Take your time. But this is quite straightforward and basic stuff in terms of autopilot. If you're a new pilot, it might seem a little bit complex. Remember before from our previous lessons, I'm going to take off those waypoint markers. We don't need them. Remove them. So it's toggle visual assistance display. I showed that in previous videos. The course is linked down below in the description in case you've not seen that course. Do go and watch those lessons first. Get used to get familiar with aircraft. Let's go full throttle. So I'm going to go full throttle, release the parking brake. Maintain center line like we did before. Watching our speed here. Watch the speed build up here. There we go. I'm going to take off around, rotate, take off around 60 knots. That's fine. 50 knots. 60 knots. I can feel the aircraft already wants to take off. Pulling back gently on my controller. Using trim like we did before just to make sure. That's our vertical speed reading in the G1000. You can see it's above, which means we're climbing. If it's below, we are descending. There we go. Getting up to 500 feet slowly. Just a little bit of trim just to keep that climb going. There. Raise my flaps. Now the aircraft... Well, all you need to do here now, autopilot and heading mode. Look, the aircraft's... I've not altered my throttle, but the aircraft's trying to maintain 80 knots because we put that flight level change command in. It's now changed to 79 knots. Let's put that back to 80. I don't know why that happened. Maybe I clicked something. 80 knots. So it's trying to maintain 80 knots and it's doing a good job. And it's climbing us because we're at full throttle to 2,000 feet quite rapidly, isn't it? We're going to get to that 2,000 feet. When we reach 2,000 feet, you'll notice ALT, it means altitude has been achieved, will lock in on green here, where that flight level change is at the moment. You'll see that, I'll keep you there. Let me just active pause that. I just don't want to go too fast so that I'm losing people. So all we did, we took off, as you saw, raised our flaps when we were 300 feet above this, our current altitude. Then we just clicked on autopilot and heading. We had our flight level change speed set in, so the autopilot is climbing to that, is maintaining 80 knots and climbing us to 2,000 feet. Just unpause it. Did I hear somebody behind me? I'm on sim update 4 at the moment, beta. Oh, there is. Ah, there we go. Don't usually see people on the beta. Okay. So hello, if you're watching this video. You are on the video. Well done. So there we go. We're getting to 2,000 feet. Watch for the change here. And then flight level change will disappear because it's now reached the altitude. So there you go. 80 LTS. And I think that will just lock in as out once fully golden green out. Which means altitude has been achieved. It's not going to maintain 80 knots now because we've reached that altitude. So that flight level change mode command now is redundant. We've reached the altitude. So whatever you got your throttle set, remember from lesson 1, we want to keep that speed, RPM, in the green. I'm just going to pull my throttle back slightly to achieve that. There we go, roughly about there. And speed is fine. Now, we're flying away from that magenta line. Shift and 2. I want to get back there. So, that's the left of my aircraft. I'm flying this way. If we zoom in a bit more with the range, you can see that. Aircraft's flying in this direction. That's my left. That's my right. I want to come to my left to get towards that magenta line, don't I? So I'm in heading mode. That's the mode we set ourselves in. I'm going to bring myself then to the left. Use the heading knob. I'll come roughly 180 southerly direction. Actually, just beyond southerly because we want to get shift and 2. We want to come in this direction, so it'll be about 160. Let's put it on 160. That'll be a good thing. Shift and 1. Using so on this number here, get it to 160, and the autopilot will follow that. So you can see the autopilot following whatever we're setting our heading to. 160. There we go. And it's turning to 160 degrees. You can see on this now we're getting closer to that magenta line. We can already click now. We're in heading mode, yes, but we can click navigation mode. Watch what happens when I click nav mode. I'm not close enough to that magenta line, so GPS is white. Once we're in range, once we're in sensor range, essentially, of the G1000, of that magenta line, this will go green and will be locked onto our nav course and will follow the course in the direction we set from Manchester to Birmingham. So it will always follow in the direction you set. Hope that makes sense. I'm going to move my heading a little bit more to the left so I get closer to that magenta line quicker. Let's put it on, I don't know, 110 degrees. Just mousing down. Give this a try, people. Follow along. Pause if you need to. Pause the video while you catch up if you're very new. That's fine. That's how a lot of us learnt, in fact, from each other. There we go. I'm now getting towards... Watch what happens when we get within range. It'll just be a little bit longer. GPS will go green, which means it's locked on to the course. But if you're in the heading mode, you can always preempt, like I did there. I put it into nav mode. I preempt it so that when we get closer to the magenta line, it's going to lock onto it. And you can do that with the G1000 and many autopilot capable aircraft. There we go. And you let me know, would you like to see this in a different type of aircraft? I can't guarantee that it'll be an aircraft that you own, but it'll be a different type just to show you a different autopilot computer. Let me know. Not airline, it's more GA aircraft. I think we need to climb. Look, there's hills ahead. Oh! That's a good point. Say you're flying in that direction. I'm going to turn nav mode off for a moment. I've got it in pause mode, don't worry, but I'm going to turn nav off. So now we're just going to stay in the heading mode. I think I'm going to get too close to those mountains. I'm going to command it to climb. Let's unpause it. I can use my altitude knobs to increase what I want my autopilot to climb to. So I'm using the smaller knob, mousing up, to climb to 2,700 feet. The autopilot's not doing anything, look. I've got it set in, it's flashing, but I'm staying at 2,000 feet. You have to command it further to climb to that. So in the G1000, you've got a vertical speed button. We can click that, left click it. Vertical speed will come up and a number here. And a number here. You can use these up, down buttons again to either climb, to go up, down if you want to descend. We want to go up to 2,700. So let's click up. And you can, every time you click up, it will increase in increments of 100 feet per minute. So I'm climbing to 2,700 feet at 100 feet per minute using vertical speed. Let's increase that to 400 feet per minute, just to give us a faster climb. You can see there, vertical speed, it's got a reading of how much vertical speed you're doing per minute. It's 400 feet. And we're going to get to 2,000, increase a bit more. To 600 feet per minute. Just increase your RPM, your throttle a little bit while you're climbing as well. Try and stay roughly around 100 knots in the climb there. I mean, we're safe enough speed there, but we're going to try and stay at that speed while we're climbing. 600 feet per minute is climbing to 2,700 feet. Active pause. Did you understand what I did there? I set a new altitude, what I want the autopilot to climb to. It didn't do anything because you have to command it further. Once you're at altitude, you're safe to use vertical speed because you've got a good speed generally on your aircraft. So you click the vertical speed button, VS will come up, and then you command it to increase to climb, or if you want to descend, use the down. Shall we show you a descent actually using vertical speed, just so we get fully rehearsed with it? I'm going to come, actually I'm going to click on nav again to lock on to my nav course. GPS, are we close enough yet? We should be. There we go, GPS has now gone green, it's locked on. So it's going to follow, you'll see the aircraft will turn and follow the course directly we've got set in. Watch what happens. And when that does happen, we can probably decrease our vertical speed slightly. Well, there's a couple of hills here, as you can see. And more people. Hey, it's great to see people around in Sim Update 4 Beta. Skies are usually empty. Okay, I want to climb down to 2,500. I don't need to be at 2,700. So altitude is now gone green, which means we're at our altitude. So I can use the altitude select to change this number to 2,500. That's what I want to climb down to. It's not going to do anything until we command it, just like before. Similar. Vertical speed. Click that. VS will come up. And we can now click. Well, it's actually going down in -100s. I didn't set that in, so that just might be automatic. But I can command it, using the down button, to climb down by 300 feet per minute. Descend 300 feet per minute to 2,500. I hope you got that, people. Get your head around that, and that's where I'm going to leave it, because it can get over complex otherwise. What I do want to do is come back and show you how you can essentially, let me just bring that throttle back, as you can see, over speeding. How you can essentially land using autopilot, using approach mode, when configuring. There's a few more things we have to configure for that to get onto an ILS a runway so we can land under autopilot control as well, or near enough land. I'll come back and show you that in a different video. Get used to those basics first and let me know how you get on. I'm going to leave it there, my friends. Give this video a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. And I'll see you soon.